Oh boy. Pretty sure this isn't a live debate.
Oh, Sean, if you could do me a favor and...
Why? Wait, is it not live?
James, how much time do we have?
5 minutes.
All right, sounds good. I'll put my timer on.
What's the noise? Uh-oh.
So in 1973, Richard Nixon fired Elliot Richardson and the Deputy Attorney General because the subpoena that had been issued by the special counsel in the Watergate matter had been resisted by Richard Nixon. He didn't want it to be done. And it was considered one of the most profound constitutional crises in the history of the country. Nowadays, we don't even look twice at the scale of the corruption that Donald Trump has put our country in. It is an absolute disgrace that we have, for example, the sitting mayor of New York doing a corrupt quid pro quo, a political quid pro quo, to do political favors for the sitting commander-in-chief in exchange for his personal freedom. I don't hear Sean to defend the mayor in terms of his corruption. Sean will acknowledge that Mayor Adams is corrupt, and yet Sean is quite all right, quite fine with, or apparently willing to say that it's not corrupt, or that that this corruption should be overlooked in favor of some political preference. It is absolutely scandalous. The level of infiltration of the executive branch into the legislative prerogatives, deleting wholesale agencies like the CFPB, deleting U.S. aid that was statutorily approved. You
mean USAID? Uh-oh.
might disagree, for example, with some of the funding decisions by your congresspeople, but those are congresspeople's decisions to make. Donald Trump's decision to completely halt all federal funding, all spending whatsoever. This is a infiltration. It is a attack on our Constitution, and nothing that Joe Biden did in his entire 4 years in office pales at all in comparison to what's going on there. They told us in their Project 2025 handbook what they were planning to do. What they want to do is centralize authority. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing illegal firings of inspectors general. They're doing illegal firings of independent agencies. And why? To make the functioning of the bureaucracy stop. What Donald Trump wants to do is make it so he determines what his money is spent on. He determines whether or not people are investigated politically. Joe Biden never, ever did anything like that. I am willing and happy to acknowledge certain actions that Joe Biden did that I do not agree with, that I've even called corrupt. I've called his pardoning of his own family corrupt. I'm willing to do that. But think about this. The sitting commander-in-chief, the President of the United States, let out 1,500 terrorist thugs who attacked our Capitol. Possibly the single most corrupt action taken by a president in the history of the Union. We have a president who supported these terrorists, these maniacs who attacked our congresspeople and tried to overthrow the election. Some indicted for and convicted of seditious conspiracy. And you guys think it's a fucking joke. It's not a joke. These people tried to upend the constitutional order, and now he's put out his deniable thugs into the world. Some of them literally pedophiles who have been indicted recently. And what is this all for? What is the purpose? The purpose is to install a king. That's what he wants to be. And I'm warning you right now, he wants to be a king. And he wants to have the authorities of a king. You hear it in what he talks about. He just tweeted the other day, quoting fucking Napoleon. And you guys think it's a joke. He's turning our country into Hungary. Joe Biden never did anything like that. And if you want to go down the policies, I'm happy to do it. Happy to talk about, I'm a liberal. I'm going to put my, cards on the table. You guys know that. So I'm going to prefer Democratic policies over MAGA policies. But how has your life meaningfully improved at all in the time that Donald Trump has taken office? Have prices gone down? He promised on day one to make prices go down. He's a fucking liar, because what he cares about is not efficiency. What Elon Musk cares about is not efficiency. What they care about is taking down this country's bureaucracy, taking down our agencies, and stopping Congress from doing its job and taking over. That's what he wants. And what's coming next is so predictable. He is gearing up for, as they all have done, and as the Chief Justice of the United States, someone who I disagree with a lot on, has warned about, he's going to defy the courts. That's what they're prepping for. And what are you guys going to do when he does? What are you going to do, Sean? Are you going to call for his impeachment when he defies a court openly? Basically, he's already violating court orders. There was a U.S. District Court out of Rhode Island where they acknowledged, yes, he violated the order, the plain text of the order. And where it was open and obvious, there was no excuse for it. And so that's what they're prepping for next. And these people are going to defend it all the way. They're going to make these absurd comparisons to Biden student loans, absurd comparisons to overreaches by the Obama administration. I'm not here for it. I'm here for the Republic, for the Constitution, and that's why Joe Biden's policies are incredibly better than Donald Trump's policy of corruption and centralization of authority.
Thank you very much for that opening, Pisco. We are going to kick it over to Sean for his opening as well. The floor is yours.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay, I got this. Okay, so I noticed in his opening statement, he didn't really talk about a lot of actual policies of the Biden administration. And the reason that he didn't do that is because there aren't really these great policies that you can point to talk about the successes of that administration. Under President Trump, under his first term, because we have not just the 20 days of him being in office or whatever amount of days he's been in office as of late, we have a whole first term. The median middle class income rose by $4,400. Now, the Heritage Foundation, which is very biased, will of course say it's $7,000. Some naysayers will say that it's $2,200. But according to a CBS report, which was trying to ding him because rich incomes went up faster, it was $4,400. That's everyday Americans being improved due to the economic policies of the Trump administration. The Biden administration, people lost $2,200 in income when it's adjusted for inflation. Obviously, when we talk about what the policies are and if they're better, the question should be better for who? And I think the who should be the American people. And in my opinion, that stat alone is one example of the economic policies being better for the American people. Now, as for Joe Biden, the idea that anybody's going to come up here and defend him when, especially you, who jumped on the bandwagon to force him off the ticket for another candidate, is ridiculous. Like, you didn't want this guy 3 months ago or however many months ago just before the election, and now you're turning around and trying to defend him, and you're throwing the same exact pre-election attacks against Trump. January 6th is what we heard about. The pardons of Trump's people. And by the way, I didn't support every pardon that Donald Trump issued. And yes, the Hunter Biden pardon is a bad pardon, but he also pardoned 2,500 other people that were supposedly nonviolent drug offenders. And included in these supposedly nonviolent drug offenders was a Adrian Peeler is a man who killed a state's witness who was 8 years old and his mother in order to prevent them from testifying against his brother, who was also a murderer. Biden pardoned him because some crappy left-wing organization said that he was a nonviolent drug offender because he was serving federal time for drugs, even though he had that conspiracy for murder on his state record. Adrian Peeler is so notorious in the state of Connecticut, he's the reason why they have a witness protection program. Biden set that man free. He will be out by July of this year, an unrepentant double murderer. I know that some of the January 6th defendants are bad guys. I would not have pardoned them. Trump had the sense to commute some of their sentences, which does not erase their felony conviction. But this guy was a double murderer, absolutely terrible. And yeah, there's a lot of bad pardons under the Biden administration I can get into. But again, in terms of policies, the Trump administration was a deregulatory administration, which frees up the economy for people to engage, make choices for themselves. And we saw the results in that in his first term. As far as his second term, he's dinging him for prices not coming down in under a month. I mean, this is a guy who denied, deflected, went along with the Democratic narrative that inflation was transitory, was telling you that you were wrong because you felt like the economy was getting worse under Biden, which, by the way, now they've come out and admit that the American people were right and the supposed data was wrong. This was in Politico, one of Clinton's comptrollers. So yeah, this guy, Biden, again, he was so bad, they literally threw him off the ticket in a nearly unprecedented move. And Donald Trump was so good that after experiencing Biden, people voted for him back into office. They were like, you know what? We're going to get back with our ex-girlfriend. That's Donald Trump. He cooks a little bit better. And that's where we're at right now.
Thank you very much for that opening as well. We'll bring it right into the open dialogue, gentlemen. The floor is all yours.
Will you condemn the corrupt quid pro quo of Mayor Adams and the Trump Justice Department on the stage, yes or no?
Yeah, so I'm not a
Yes
fan.
or no?
I'm not a fan of Mayor Eric Adams. I never supported Mayor Eric Adams. I know this is your big get, like that
Will
you
you
tweeted
condemn
out
it?
about. Let me answer the question.
Yeah.
So I would have pursued the corruption charges against Mayor Eric Adams 100%. I do think he's guilty, but unfortunately, I read some of the rationale for postponing this past the election, and even though you're trying to frame it as a corrupt quid pro quo, it turns out that there's a little bit of an issue in that the state's attorney, Damian Williams, is actually using this, or was supposedly
State's
using
attorney?
this. The district attorney for the Southern District of New York was actually using the Adams prosecution, which his office filed, as a way to run for mayor of New York City. So this is the
Bullshit
concerns
propaganda
about.
by that administration. Do you condemn it
I mean,
or not? Do you condemn it?
You can
Do you
go-
condemn it?
You can go to Damian.
Do you condemn the
You
quid
can go
pro
to
quo?
DamianWilliamsOfficial.com and see his very much not a campaign website.
Are you
wink,
willing to
wink.
condemn
And this is the
the
problem.
quid pro
So
quo or
yeah,
not?
I definitely disagree with them postponing
Do you
it for Eric
condemn
Adams.
it as corrupt?
Well, I don't believe it's corrupt.
You don't believe it's corrupt? Okay, so you don't think that they were doing it in exchange for immigration policy? Is that
I
right?
don't think so. No.
You believe?
I think
you
they're
believe
trying to make it
a stooge of the
I think they're
administration.
trying to make something seem. I think they're doing something that I hate in American politics, which they found this guy who's going to run for mayor against Mayor Eric Adams was one of the architects of this prosecution. I think the case is solid, good, and should be pursued.
Look
But
at
in
how
order
insane this
to
is.
avoid the perception
yeah.
of this being political and biased, they're going to postpone it because they have not dismissed the
Look
charge
at the
completely.
lengths that they'll go through to defend this corrupt administration. We have a corrupt Democratic politician. He acknowledges that he's corrupt, and
It's alleged. He's not convicted.
you don't think Mayor Adams is corrupt?
Oh no, I definitely do.
Okay, so
but that's not a
you
conviction.
agree that Mayor Adams is corrupt. That's correct, right?
Yeah, I think he is, but he's not
100%.
convicted.
Yeah. So we both agree that he's fucking corrupt. And Donald and you're saying that when the Justice Department comes out and says, "Hey, we're doing this so he plays ball with us on immigration," you're saying you don't believe them.
That's not exactly what they said.
Give me a fucking break.
In the memo-
So Tom Hallman comes on on Fox News and says we have an agreement. And by the way, the acting U.S. attorney, not a fucking district attorney, the acting U.S. attorney of the Southern District of New York said this was a quid pro quo. She points to the conversation. It's not even denied that at least one of the major rationales is for immigration policy. And you're sitting here and you're accepting some bullshit post hoc narrative about a website from the U.S. attorney at the time who had no influence on this investigation whatsoever, and you have no evidence of that, and you're willing to say that this exchange is not corrupt.
I mean, he had no influence except for the fact that he's campaigning and showing himself at the press conference where they're announcing the indictments. But okay.
Just to be clear, so you're buying the narrative that this entire thing was a witch hunt.
No, I didn't say it was a witch hunt.
Was it
I said
a
the
corrupt
exact
investigation?
opposite.
Was it?
I said the exact opposite.
Was it a
Are
corrupt investigation or
Is
not?
English not your first
Was
language?
it a corrupt investigation or not?
I don't think it was a corrupt investigation. I think it is legit to go after
be
Mayor
clear,
Eric Adams.
to be
I
clear,
disagree with the
it
Trump
was-
administration.
It was
on
not
this.
a corrupt investigation. It was not a corrupt investigation of a corrupt mayor who he thinks is guilty, and he's okay with a not corrupt investigation with Donald Trump. Why would you stop that investigation? Why would you stop that?
Well, they're worried about an appearance of corruption, which is what they're concerned about.
And you don't think that the appearance of corruption, of writing in your fucking memo that, hey, we want you to play ball on immigration.
That's not what it said in the memo.
What about the appearance of a political statement on that? How about every Southern District of New York U.S. attorney in like the past, I don't know how many years, coming out and condemning it? How about the Friday night massacre we had there? You have nothing to say for that. You think that that's above board? You think it's not corrupt to drop this investigation? And by the way, they didn't drop it permanently. They dropped it temporarily. So if this is all the appearance of political bias, that's what he's worried about, why not drop it permanently? Why not pardon him if that's the reason? The reason why they kept it open and it's not done permanently with prejudice is because they want to hold it over his head. Because they might indict him after, as they state, after the election, we might still indict you. They said, by the way, we didn't even look at the facts or law in this case, in their own memo. And he's sitting here and telling you that's not fucking corrupt. That's the lengths, and just so you know why this is relevant, that's the lengths people like this will go to defend the obvious, blatant corruption by the Trump administration.
Again, you're just asserting that it's corruption and monologuing about it. It could be corruption. It could be a problem. Again, I think Eric Adams is corrupt. I would have pursued the case. I understand the rationale that one of the guys who's the head of the Southern District of New York, he's the one that is running for mayor or allegedly going to run for mayor against Mayor Eric Adams. He sets up a campaign website for cases that he has influence on, including the Adams case. Again, it's called what's this guy's first name? DamianWilliamsOfficial.com. Anybody could look it up for himself. So I have an issue where you have an appearance of corruption from the Southern District of New York. I don't think that's legitimate. I would pursue the case, but you're asserting that it's a quid pro quo because they're saying they'll examine it after the election.
You're naive. You buy the regime's propaganda. So what they're doing, right? Like if you're a prosecutor, one thing that prosecutors do is run for elected office. And one thing they do is like, hey, look at all this crime we stopped. That doesn't mean that just because I'm showcasing the crimes I stopped, just like, by the way, you had an issue with Alvin Bragg listing the different things that he's done as a public servant. Sorry, dude, that's fucking campaigning. By the way, if Trump ran for office, he would also campaign on going after people and having big cases. That's just how our system works. And you're acting like that's fucking corruption because you're a stooge. You're a stooge of the regime. And we can move on from it, but just look at what
Stooge of the regime.
I mean, you just said it's not a corrupt investigation. You think he's guilty.
I think
and because
Adam,
there's a fucking website,
I think
he should drop the case, but only temporarily.
I think Mayor Eric Adams is corrupt. The website is just supporting evidence that the guy from the Southern District of New York is going to run for mayor of the city of New York. So yeah,
why do you discount the acting U.S. attorney? Why do you discount the line prosecutors?
I didn't say any of that. I said it looks like this guy's running for this position. So yeah, it's weird when your office indicts a guy before an election for a position that you intend to run for.
On balance, if you had to pick right now between this whole exchange being corrupt or not corrupt, on balance, would you say it's corrupt or not corrupt?
Which component?
Given the evidence that you've seen of the memo of the acting U.S. attorney, the memo of the line prosecutor who said this is fucking corrupt. They can't even find someone from the integrity office to file the motion. And they have to put them all in a room and say, one of you motherfuckers has signed this. Because if you don't, you're all fired. And you're saying on balance that you're indifferent between the outcomes? That if this wasn't fucking Joe Biden and the IRS whistleblowers, he wouldn't be screaming from the fucking ledges saying, holy shit, look at this corruption. That we saw this shit, by the way. Every second, Joe Biden, there's some insider that says he whispered that he's upset with Merrick Garland, and these guys are screaming from the rooftops, interference, interference, interference. It's blatant in your face. You have no answer for it, and we can move on. But
I've already answered it.
All right, cool. So what about gutting all the agencies? So these are statutorily enacted agencies. The CFPB, just for an example, and they say we're going to delete it. Elon Musk's whim, a billionaire oligarch. You're okay with usurping the legislative authority? Is that right? They can put all their funding down to one on the president's unilateral discretion. Is that right?
So Elon Musk said that he wanted to delete the CFPB. They haven't done that yet. Again, they're examining it. They're auditing it. I remember somebody named Donald Trump who ran for president, and he said that they're going to set up this Department of Government Efficiency prior to him taking office. People like you were like, this is a joke agency. It's not real. Nothing to worry about. This isn't going to do anything. And now, because the talking points have changed, it's President Elon Musk. Oh, no, he's going after all this different spending and whatnot.
You're mischaracterizing what I said before. I've always said that Elon Musk is a dangerous influence on the president. You can look at my statements. You're just assuming shit. But just to be a trillion% clear, you think it would be acceptable if they reduce, for example, the CFPB funding to $1, or they fire all the employees in that agency because,
Well, the CFPB gets its funding from the Federal Reserve rather than from congressional appropriations, which is an issue onto itself. Like, that's an agency that essentially exists in a fourth branch of government.
If the CFPB, it's everyone fired, they close their offices and they use them for immigration detention, do you think that that's
use the offices for immigration detention?
So if it's you can fight the hypothetical.
Like they're going to put them in the Federal Reserve?
They've stated their desire to end the CFPB, to end the Department of Education.
You can have a desire to end the Republicans have been running on ending the Department of Education since the 1980s.
Do you think the president has the unilateral authority?
No, he doesn't have the unilateral authority to get rid of the Department of Education.
So why are they, for example, saying that they're going to do it? Why are they saying that we're going to delete it?
Elon Musk said he wanted to delete the CFPB.
And Trump fucking didn't? Are you serious?
Trump may have said it, but Elon Musk is the one who said that. They have not,
like you said, they
have not shut down the CFPB. If they fire the people there, anybody in the executive branch can be fired by the president.
So just to be clear, Elon Musk, who's the head of this agency, which you said, by the way, is a real agency with power, right?
No, I said your talking points changed, that it was a fake agency to a real agency.
Oh, God, they're talking about the legal justification for Doji. Pisco's well read on all of this, right? I'm assuming. Hold on. We're rewinding. Stay mad. Did I miss anything good? Or has it just been dumb?
Agency, it's not real, nothing to worry about, this isn't going to do anything. And now, because the talking points have changed, it's President Elon Musk. Oh no, he's going after all this different spending and whatnot.
I'm mischaracterizing what I said before. I've always said that Elon Musk is a dangerous influence on the president. You can look at my statements, you're just assuming shit. But just to be a trillion% clear, you think it would be acceptable if they reduce, for example, the CFPB funding to $1 with him on Fox News and says we have an agreement. And by the way, the acting U.S. attorney, not a fucking district attorney, the acting U.S. attorney of the Southern District of New York said this was a quid pro quo. She points to the conversation. It's not even denied that at least one of the major rationales is for immigration policy. And you're sitting here and you're accepting some bullshit post hoc narrative about a website from the U.S. attorney at the time who had no influence on this investigation whatsoever, and you have no evidence of that. And you're willing to say that this exchange is not corrupt.
I mean, he had no influence except for the fact that he's campaigning and showing himself at the press conference where they're announcing the indictments. But okay.
So you're buying.
Fuck. Did either of them read the memos? Did Pisco read the memo? They Bovee very clearly said he was not making any statement on the authenticity of any of the actual investigative processes around the indictment itself. Bovee explicitly said he wasn't making any statement about the strength of the evidence at all.
In the narrative that this entire thing was a witch hunt.
No, I didn't say it was a witch hunt.
Was it?
I said the exact opposite.
Was it a corrupt investigation or not?
Is English not your first
Was it a
language?
corrupt investigation or not?
I don't think it was a corrupt investigation. I think it is legit to go after Mayor Eric Adams. I disagree with the Trump administration.
It was not a corrupt investigation. It was not a corrupt investigation of a corrupt mayor who he thinks is guilty, and he's okay with a not corrupt investigation with Donald Trump. Why would you stop that investigation? Why would you stop that?
Well, they're worried about an appearance of corruption, which is what they're concerned about.
And you don't think that
oh, he's going to say it. You don't think them dropping the chart? If you were worried about an appearance of corruption, why would you say nothing about Eric Adams flying to Mar-a-Lago and then being on Trump's side and then immediately having all these charges dismissed? Does that not appear to be a million times more corrupt?
Appearance of corruption of writing in your fucking memo that, hey, we want you to play ball in immigration?
That's not what it said in the memo.
What about the appearance of a political...
That is... What do you mean that's not what it said in the memo?
Thing on that. How about every Southern District of New York U.S. attorney in like the past, I don't know how many years, coming out and condemning it? How about the Friday Night Massacre we had there? You have nothing to say for that. You think that that's above board? You think it's not corrupt to drop this investigation? And by the way, they didn't drop it permanently. They dropped it.
True, they dropped it temporarily, just until after the election, just to make sure that Mayor Adams knows that they can always come back on that ass if you don't play ball.
Temporarily. So if this is all the appearance of political bias that he's worried about, why not drop it permanently? Why not pardon him if that's the reason? The reason why they kept it open and it's not done permanently with prejudice is because they want to hold it over his head.
Yep.
Because they might indict him after, as they state, after the election, we might still indict you. They said, by the way, we didn't even look at the facts or law in this case in their own memo. And he's sitting here and telling you that's not fucking corrupt. That's the lengths, and just so you know why this is relevant, that's the lengths people like this will go to defend the obvious, blatant corruption of the Trump administration.
Again, you're just asserting that it's corruption and monologuing about it. It could be corruption. It could be a problem. Again, I think Eric Adams is corrupt. I would have pursued the case. I understand the rationale that one of the guys who's the head of the Southern District of New York, he's the one that is running for mayor or allegedly going to run for mayor against Mayor Eric Adams. He sets up a campaign website for cases that he has influence on, including the Adams case. Again, it's called, what's this guy's first name? DamianWilliamsOfficial.com. Anybody can look it up for himself. So I have an issue where you have an appearance of corruption from the Southern District of New York. I don't think that's legitimate. I would pursue the case, but you're asserting that it's a quid pro quo because they're saying they'll examine it after the election.
You're naive. You buy the regime's propaganda. So what they're doing, right? Like if you're a prosecutor, one thing that prosecutors do is run for elected office. And one thing they do is like, hey, look at all this crime we stopped. That doesn't mean that just because I'm showcasing the crimes I stopped. Just like, by the way, you had an issue with Alvin Bragg listing the different things that he's done as a public servant. Sorry, dude, that's fucking campaigning. By the way, if Trump ran for office, he would also campaign on going after people and having big cases. That's just how our system works. And you're acting like that's fucking corruption because you're a stooge. You're a stooge of the regime. And we can move on from it. Just look at
Stooge of the regime.
I mean, you just said it's not a corrupt investigation. You think he's guilty.
Oh, I think
there's a website.
I think Mayor Eric Adams is corrupt. The website is just supporting evidence that the guy from the Southern District of New York is going to run for mayor of the city of New York. So yeah,
why do you discount the acting U.S. attorney? Why do you discount the line prosecutor?
Because I didn't say any of that. I said it looks like this guy's running for this position. So yeah, it's weird when your office indicts a guy before an election for a position that you intend to run
balance,
for.
if you had to.
Yeah, but like, it's weird. This is the criminal justice system. You need more than it's weird for dismissing a federal case. You need more than it's kind of weird. Like, that might be good enough for a fucking YouTube video, but to dismiss a federal case where the voters of New York City's public funding for elections was allegedly scammed to the tune of, I don't know what, $2 to $10 million? Like, it's got to be more than it's weird, bro. What the fuck? You know what's weird is Epstein dying in prison when Donald Trump was the head of the government. You know what's weird is Donald Trump refusing to release the Epstein files, saying that some good people might get caught in the crosshairs. Like, those are weird things. Is that enough to throw somebody away in prison for life, or to disbar somebody from running for president, or to impeach somebody? Like, what do you mean? Like, it's weird. What a bullshit, dog shit fucking argument. Ugh.
If you had to pick right now between this whole exchange being corrupt or not corrupt, on balance, would you say it's corrupt or not corrupt?
He's not even going to answer. He's going to be like, I don't know. I don't even have evidence to say. I would be, if he even answers a question, I guess I'll give him props or whatever. But
given the evidence that you've seen, the memo of the acting U.S. attorney, the memo of the line prosecutor who said this is fucking corrupt, they can't even find someone from the integrity office to file the motion, and they have to put them all in a room and say, one of you motherfuckers has signed this, because if you don't, you're all fired. And you're saying on balance that you're indifferent between the outcomes. That if this wasn't fucking Joe Biden and the IRS whistleblowers, he wouldn't be screaming from the fucking ledges saying, "Holy shit, look at this corruption." We saw this shit, by the way, every second. Joe Biden, there's some insider that says he whispered that he's upset with Matt Garland.
Fuck, he let him get away from it. That's what Pisco shouts at me for. He didn't make him answer that question.
And these guys are screaming from the rooftops, interference. It's blatant in your face. You have no answer for it, and we can move on. But
I've already answered it.
All right, cool. So what about gutting all the agencies? So these are statutorily enacted.
The Eric Adams, that's a killer. I think that's probably the worst example so far of blatant authoritarian corruption from the president, from the executive branch. I think that there should have been a way bigger own at the end there of like, I need you to own these positions. I need you to say that you will never be mad if a Democrat comes into office and dismisses all charges against a Democrat being prosecuted, or I guess, or again, it's a Democrat. If anybody makes any political statement whatsoever afterwards, like that's such an unbelievable position.
Agencies. The CFPB, just for an example, they say, we're going to delete it. Elon Musk's whim, a billionaire oligarch. You're okay with usurping the legislative authority. Is that right? They can put all their funding down to one on the president's unilateral discretion. Is that right?
So Elon Musk said that he wanted to delete the CFPB. They haven't done that yet. Again, they're examining it. They're auditing it. I remember somebody named Donald Trump who ran for president, and he said that they're going to set up this Department of Government Efficiency prior to him taking office. People like you were like, this is a joke agency. It's not real. Nothing to worry about. This isn't going to do anything. And now, because the talking points have changed, it's President Elon Musk. Oh no, he's going after all this different spending and whatnot.
And mischaracterizing what
What an unbelievable straw man and non-response to what Pisco just said, but okay.
I said before, I've always said that Elon Musk is a dangerous influence on the president. You can look at my statements, you're just assuming shit. But just to be a trillion% clear, you think it would be acceptable if they reduce, for example, the CFPB funding to $1, or they fire all the employees in that agency because
So the CFPB gets its funding from the Federal Reserve rather than from congressional appropriations, which is an issue onto itself. Like that's an agency that essentially exists in a
Look at how another talking point non-answer.
fourth branch
if the
of government.
CFPB, it's everyone fired, they close their offices and they use it for immigration detention. Do you think that that's
Use the
unacceptable?
offices for immigration
Yeah.
detention?
So if it's, you can fight the hypothetical.
Like they're gonna put them in the Federal Reserve?
They've stated their desire to end the CFPB, to end the Department of
You can
Education.
have a desire to end the Republicans have been running on ending the Department of Education
You think
since
the
the
president,
1980s.
you think the president has unilateral
No, he doesn't
authority
have the unilateral authority to get rid of the Department of
So
Education.
why are they, for example, saying that they're going to do it? Why are they saying that we're going to delete it?
Elon Musk said he wanted to delete the CFPB.
And Trump fucking didn't? Are you serious?
Trump may have said it, but Elon Musk is
Of
the one who
course he
said
said
that.
it.
They have not.
Like you said, they
have
can't
not shut down the CFPB. If they fire the people there, anybody in the executive branch can be fired by the president.
So just to be clear, Elon Musk, who's the head of this agency, which you said, by the way, is a real agency with power, right?
No,
I don't know why they're focused on the CFPB. They should just look at what's happened with USAID or what's happened with the Treasury payment freeze thing. Those are the two strong things. Maybe do they already talk about it, or maybe they'll get to it?
Talking points changed that it was a fake agency to a real
Well,
agency.
the question is whether or not it's an authorized agency, whether or not it's statutorily, properly enacted, and time will tell on that front. But he absolutely has effective control. You would agree, Elon Musk has effective control over a shit ton of American policies. That's fair, right?
I don't think so.
You don't think Elon Musk? So what we're gonna do, you do not think Elon Musk is having an effect on U.S. policy?
Right now, he's
That's your position?
examining the government.
You don't think that Elon Musk is influencing, for example, how much money goes to?
See, now you're like weaseling.
What about all the people? He's calling him a weasel. God, he's such a disgusting fuck. What about all of the people that have already been fired or have had their funds frozen, or the massive layoffs that happened? Wasn't this all done at the behest of Doji?
around
No,
the
no,
terms. You said effective control, and now you're like influencing. There's a big difference, a giant valley between those two things. But of course, you're trying to use your weasel tactics because again, you
Does he
can't
have
defend
significant
any of the Biden policies.
What
Notice how
about
all of this is like, oh, Elon Musk in the CFPB, oh, Elon Musk in the
Does he
What
have
is it? Biden's not the president right now. What is this? Well, I don't know what this debate is over. Oh, Trump or Biden's whose policies are better? Okay.
Oh, can they get rid of the
Elon
Department
have
of
significant influence?
Does he have influence over the president?
Of
Yes,
course
he's
he
in
does.
the Oval Office.
All right,
Nobody
let's
said
talk
that.
about
Again,
it.
you said control. You went from control to influence. And you pretend like I don't notice that.
Can you point to a single thing that Biden did that was as corrupt as pardoning all the Janesixers? Oh wait.
Oh, he's going to say pardoning his family. And Pisco already owns this point. So
Pardoning his son? What?
So you think that
pardoning his son, pardoning federal government officials with a preemptive pardon that dates back 10 years, 3 years before any
you
of the
think it is-
offenses?
I just want to be clear. You think that it is more corrupt. It is more corrupt. I agree it's corrupt. You agree it's more corrupt to pardon Hunter Biden for his tax-related offenses, for all offenses.
every
all-
offense for
I agree,
10 years,
yeah,
including
for
offenses
than-
unknown?
Than to pardon the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers that committed and were convicted of seditious conspiracy.
So some of those
I just want to
people,
hear you say
some
that.
of those people
I want
like
to hear you say
Stuart,
that.
some of those people like Stuart Rose had their convictions commuted.
Do you think that
Like, they weren't actually
is it
pardoned.
more corrupt to pardon Hunter Biden than to
Yes,
use Stuart Rose?
100% your own family.
So this is a guy who actually planned violence. It was proved, got a reasonable doubt, to overthrow the government. And he's saying that it's more corrupt to pardon your son, which is corrupt, than the people who tried to overturn the 2020 election. That shows you he's not serious about constitutional republicanism. He's not serious about democracy. Anyone who can sit and say that with a straight face is fucking lying. And to say that everyone, 1,500 people, how do you defend that?
1,500 people. Yeah, he pardoned 1,500 people. Joe Biden pardoned 2,500 people, and a list that was given to him by an
the
organization,
commutation
including murderers.
had to do with people that were had to do with people who had had sentences commuted because they'd stayed at home during like COVID lockdown for prison shit or some COVID related bullshit. Totally different than 1,600 people that were convicted of an insurrection, or not insurrection, I guess we could say rioting or violence that was like in direct connection to your run for re-election. It's totally not even remotely close to the same thing.
That were told to him to be nonviolent.
And by your own
is
retelling,
the raw number of those people.
By your
Like,
own
is that the
retelling,
issue?
by your own retelling, he was lied to by a leftist group, in which case it certainly
Well,
was.
they gave him that list, and then
Yeah,
he
so
put up the
if he's just an idiot and going off the left,
I mean,
as you're suggesting,
Trump campaigned on pardoning and commuting the January 6ers. The American people voted for him, and he enacted those promises. Again,
Trump
day
also
one of the
ran
Trump
against Day
presidency,
That's not responsive. You could run on, I'm running on unilaterally as the president of the United States, abolishing the Supreme Court and the Congress with the stroke of a pen. If he won the election, does that mean that he's allowed to do that? That he should do that? Can the president literally just run on anything and then do anything, even if it's unconstitutional? Is that the argument? What is this argument of like, they voted for him to do this, so the fuck what? But that doesn't mean anything. You can vote for the head of your fifth grade student council, and he could promise hot dogs for lunch every day and no more homework. That doesn't mean he can deliver on it. Like what?
day one of the Trump presidency, something that people don't usually see for the politicians. He had an hour-long session where he was going over all the different orders that he was doing in order to show the American people that he was keeping to his word.
Oh, yeah,
Joe Biden
really
couldn't
knows
talk
orders.
for 5 minutes. And again, notice the lack of defense of any of Joe Biden's policies from this man
Let's-
right here.
let's-
It's called
let's-
Orange Man bad,
let's-
Trump
let's-
bad, Trump bad,
let's talk
January
about the
6th. Where were
policies
you
of
on
Joe
January
Biden.
6th?
So-
Do you have an alibi?
So-
That's all he's got.
So Joe Biden, 100.
Why is AJW tripling down on Jan 6? It just makes him look stupid? No, it doesn't. And the Trump crowd, this makes him look awesome. The Trump cult requires buy-in to every single part of every part of the deep state narrative, of the constellation of all the crazy beliefs that all the Trump people believe into. You can't break with any of these big points. So like COVID, lockdown bullshit, vaccine bullshit, like Trump false prosecution bullshit. Like you have to be on point with every single one of these things. So you have to own all the J6 stuff. But they do it. That's fine. 2020 election, stolen bullshit.
Right here. It's called Orange Man bad, Trump bad, Trump bad, January 6th. Where were you on January 6th? Do you have an alibi? That's all he's got.
So Joe Biden, 100%. So immediately, instead of focusing on centralizing executive authority, Joe Biden was going after bipartisan legislative wins. Bipartisan legislative wins that were voted on by Republicans as well. Not the American Rescue Plan, but the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Chips and Science Act. These are pieces of legislation that invested and protected the American worker, that invested in our economy. Bipartisan gun legislation, where even if you're a Second Amendment person, these are to stop domestic abusers from getting access to guns and things like that. So we can talk about legislative wins that he pursued honorably, as the president should. And yeah, I mean, what legislation are we waiting for Trump? We're waiting for massive tax cuts, and he wants to defund Medicaid. They're telling you he wants to defund Medicaid. He wants to increase the military budget. Are you like a war hawk now? By $150 billion. How is that responsible? How is that good policy?
The military budget goes up under every administration, number one. Number two, the tax cuts put money back in the American people's pockets, and the proof of is in the results of the economic policies. Again, incomes for ordinary people went up $4,400. Under Biden and all those investments in the American economy, what did we get? A decline in your income adjusted
Classic
for inflation
correlation
by $2,200.
Classic. I mean,
And in addition to that, like these
What is he even citing here? How do you measure this over a 4-year term with COVID? I'm curious what he's citing to here.
programs like the Inflation Reduction Act, which is really about climate change. You can look at all the different ridiculous programs that they've done under the guise of climate change. I mean, I just did a story about Maine where they were gifted 4 electric school buses in a school district from a company called Lions Energy. Now, these buses catch fire, they break down. One of them stalled twice en route to pick up the kids. And this guy, who's the driver of this bus, had to veer off into a snowbank in order to prevent himself from crashing into an intersection. So that was given through an EPA program. And by the way, this is one of the reasons why they're trying to examine all these different various grants under the Biden administration. And there were free buses under the condition that the school district had to run them for 5 years. Problem is, they didn't work. They sent them back to the manufacturer. Manufacturer, again, a Canadian company, Lions Energy. They say that they're fixed, return them back to the school, and they're still broken. They're still busted. And now these school districts across the country are stuck due to this ridiculous environmental program. Another ridiculous environmental program from the Biden administration, again, the Bipartisan Inflation Reduction Act, that's actually a climate change bill, is building an electric car charging network around the country. Now, we're only a few years into this program, but it had a full budget of $7.5 billion. And after 3 years, they built 8
It's
of
a
these
10
stations.
year
It shouldn't take
Okay,
10
that's the
years.
plan. You can
Well,
say-
like, think about
How
the
much time should it take for massive infrastructure building in the United States of America? What I love it when people say that. It shouldn't take this long. About how long should it take? What do you mean? What?
Oh, wait.
Think about the pace.
You can say
Think
the
about the
plan
pace,
sucks.
though.
You can say the plan
8
sucks.
in 2 years. Just think about that. So you get 40 after 10 years at that pace. That's horrible.
You can say the plan sucks, but you're acting as though it's not going according to plan. They're trying to do private-public partnerships and not just work everything like fiat, because we recognize that it's a complex fucking system that we live in. But you talked about prices. I want to talk about that. So if prices don't come down in the next 4 years, are you going to call the policies of Donald Trump with respect to the economy a disaster?
Yeah, of course.
If they don't come down, do you
He
expect
won't. He won't. He'll blame the deep state.
the prices to come
He
down?
promised that prices would drop, and he said he was going to do things to help prices drop. So yeah, if
Inflation
prices
is up.
It's February.
Yeah, what I'm telling you is,
Are you still using statistics from January?
No,
Like, you know how they use
I
the
just
egg
wanna
stat
be
that was
clear.
like the price of eggs as of January 15th?
I want to be clear.
And they blame
So
Trump.
I just want to be clear. You should not expect your prices to decrease. You should not expect your price to decrease. So we'll see you again in 2 years when prices have not decreased, and where Trump, by example, is talking about and edging for these massive tariff wars. You guys saw that, right? Where he's having these fake propaganda victories where nothing of any consequence happens, and so you should not expect those prices to come down. So I'm very, very looking forward to when you post that video in 2 years saying Trump's policies are a disaster because prices have not come down.
I think you can expect some of your energy prices to come down, and that will have some downstream effects on the
Oh,
economy.
really? You know one of the major providers for energy in the United States of
Canada.
America, exporters? Canada. And who right now, like, relations with Canada have never been fucking worse. He's openly talking
Once Canada is a province of the United States of America, we
Yeah,
will have
it's
access.
Oh, and then he memes it away. That's me. Fucking hilarious. Fucking me, bro.
and who right now, like, relations with Canada have never been fucking worse. He's openly talking
Once Canada is a province of the United States of America, we
Yeah,
will
it's a
have
meme.
access to
It's-
all of their
it's
oil.
a meme. It's a meme just because they think
Epic.
that this whole thing's a joke for them. It's about owning the liberals. They have flipping
Yep.
comments like that where they're not taking it seriously.
Yep.
The expansionist vision of this administration, for example, talking about owning Gaza. What do you think about that?
Well,
and now Rubio's doubling down on it. So what do you think? You just think it's a posture?
Learn more about Atheists for Liberty and what we do.
Oh my god, I didn't mean to click that. Fuck.
To just rewind the tape. He then switches to influence,
No,
right? So he's that's where you start the negotiation.
Yeah, okay. But
Oh my
you
God.
just think it's a posture. You just think it's fake.
Well, I do think it's a posture. Or I hope it's a posture. 'Cause I don't
Oh,
wanna-
it's all negotiation. It's all negotiations. Please, Pisco, bring up the fact that where are the hostages? I thought the hostages were supposed to be out by now, yesterday afternoon. So does that mean his negotiation positions failed, or?
to the United States of America.
Yeah,
We
it's
will
a
have
meme.
access to
It's
all of their
It's
oil.
a meme. It's a meme just because they think that this whole thing's a joke for them. It's about owning the liberals. They have flipping comments like that where they're not taking it seriously. The expansionist vision of this administration, for example, talking about owning Gaza. What do you think about that?
Well,
and now Rubio's doubling down on it. So what do you think? You just think it's a posture. You just think it's fake.
Well, I do think it's a posture. Or I hope it's a posture because I don't want anything to do with Gaza. Now, Greenland, that is a vision for the future, and I'm definitely
Oh, fucking epic meme, bro.
on board
Would
for
you
Greenland.
end NATO? Would you end NATO to take over Greenland?
Would I end NATO to take over
Would you end
Greenland?
America's
No, we
involvement?
want to buy Greenland.
Okay, but Denmark is not for sale.
Well, that's where you start the negotiation.
Yeah, okay, but what about Gaza?
all the negotiation, bro.
Let's talk
Yeah,
about it.
I don't want Gaza.
Benjamin Netanyahu has, you would agree, a tremendous influence on Donald Trump there.
Yeah, and does he control him or influence him? Because you seem to think that those words are interchangeable.
Well, no,
sometimes.
so just to be clear, I said that Elon Musk has effective control over a lot of policies, which he does there.
No, influence.
He doesn't have control?
Influence.
So, okay, explain that to me. So someone is able to...
He's a special government employee. He serves at the discretion of the president.
He has effective control over a lot of stuff,
I
right?
don't think so, no.
Not even effective control?
No, because Congress is going to have to examine the
so
things that he's doing, especially with these departments that are
you think
authorized
Joe
by
Biden's like
Congress.
senile, all his handlers, you think that they didn't have effective control?
No, Joe Biden was the president of the United States
So
of America and the Democratic
that's
Congress.
semantical fucking bullshit that you'll get into. Where
It's not the
you can't even use the word effective
You're the one who's
control.
getting into the semantics.
Oh,
As soon as we argue on control, again, so just rewind the tape. He then switches to influence,
No,
right? So he's
the
what is
term
term of
is-
Mott and Bailey.
the
So he
term
goes
is-
out on the
the
strong
term is
position,
effective.
and then when I push back on it,
The
he
term-
retreats to a weaker
the
one.
term
This is the tactics that
term
he's trying to go with.
The term is effective control.
Yeah, and I said no.
Yeah, so-
I
so
disagree.
you're talking-
I don't buy into your premise. I'm
Yeah.
not on board.
This is why, if you look by the end of it, this is why Sean is a person who's not worth engaging with politically, because like you never have like a real conversation of substance. He is one of the snakiest, most weaselly fucking persons like ever to debate with. There's never, ever a debate on the substance of anything. It's always these cute, stupid little fucking word games. It's memeing when he's cornered into a position. Like, there's no conversation of substance ever with this guy. It's so stupid and boring.
With it.
So
how can I say
someone
this
was-
more clearly so you stop asking the same question?
Yeah, so why does he
I say
have-
he has influence.
Does the Secretary of State have
He
effective control over state foreign policy?
Yeah, the Secretary of what you call Secretary of State has influence.
Why?
I'm sorry, has control over policy.
No, does he have effective control?
I think the Secretary of State has control over
Effective
policy.
control. Does he?
Yeah, effective
Okay,
control.
why does the Secretary of State have effective control?
The Secretary of State is a confirmed nominee to that particular office. I forget what position they are in the line of succession in the government.
He serves at the pleasure of the president, just like Elon Musk.
Okay, well, the Secretary of State is a cabinet level department, again, doing duties that are authorized by Congress. Elon Musk is a special government employee that can only work for 130 days in a 365-day period.
So
Like, what are you talking about?
So what we're talking
You think a
about-
cabinet level
yeah, so-
department in the line of succession is the same as a special government
The
employee?
truth is what you're
Well, but the cabinet level department, the Department of State, is supposed to be what has control to some extent over the USAID, but USAID was being cut up by essentially, I mean, you could say recommendations from Elon Musk, I guess, but I mean, like, it's not like Rubio did any analysis of what was going on in here, right?
doing is because the president is ultimately the supervising authority over, I guess in your mind, every single employee in the executive branch.
Well, that is
you're
true.
gonna-
He's the head of
you're
the
gonna say,
executive
I'm not even
branch.
willing to say.
Oh, the unitary executive theory, nice.
Mine.
I'm not even willing to
Article
say
2 of the
that-
Constitution.
I'm not even willing to say where in Article 2 of the Constitution does it say
The president is the
can fire
head of
every
the
single
executive
person? It says there's a vesting clause, but where in Article 2 does it
Where,
specifically lay that out?
where in the Constitution does it say that they can create something in the executive branch that's above the president?
Well, there's
Above the president? What do you mean? That they can create offices that are separate from president? They literally have the clause. What's it called? Is it the appointments clause? They literally say that Congress. Why would you ask this question? Congress literally has the power to create things in the executive branch that the president does not have universal control over. What do you mean? Does he not? Does he not think that?
binding Supreme Court precedent on that. It's called Humphrey's Executor. And there's another one recently by Roberts called Say the Law. You're aware of those precedents there?
No.
You're not aware of the precedents on unitary executive theory and on executives who are not immediately fireable by the president. You're not aware of that, but you're talking about it. As though it's a foregone conclusion that Article 2 of the Constitution works the way you think it is. Because you're talking out of your ass because you've never actually read these cases or have dealt with the arguments.
I don't know the two
the legal
specific cases that you're referring to, but yeah.
They're the most famous cases. Humphrey's Executor is the most, and they're talking about overturning it. But you're willing to say on here that it's so obvious that the president can fire anyone he wants in the administration.
The president should be
That's the premise that Trump wants.
The president literally cannot do that. I'm guessing the Supreme Court thinks he's talking about too, but the president can't like go down into the DOJ and just like fire base level employees. I don't think he even has the. I don't think he can do that. I don't think he is allowed to. It's not legal.
He
or
wants to make
constitutional.
everything under his thumb. That's why he's firing illegally all of these protected offices. That's why he's firing, for example, the heads of the FTC or the heads of the EEOC. He wants these agencies and independent agencies to stop functioning.
They're not independent agencies. They're under the executive branch. Like this idea.
He like Sean is just going by memes on Twitter. Independent? They're not independent. It's all the president basically. That what do you like? It's just retarded.
Yeah, that there's these independent agencies. It's just not real. Again, the
What's
president
it's
is
not real. What like okay.
head of the executive
the
branch,
process is
and
not
even
real.
the inspector generals that you brought up in the open. Like, did you explain what is supposedly illegal about their firing? He's supposed to give them 30 days notice that he's firing an inspector
And a
general.
substantive rationale. But listen, those notice provisions are important. Why are they important? The notice provisions are put there for a reason, to prevent these kinds of situations where the president of the United States is, at the drop of a hat, firing the people who are responsible for internal compliance, firing the people who are responsible for being a check on its own branch. And so violating that 30-day notice provision is extremely important because it's Trump trying to usurp the limitations that Congress has put in the law. The Congress has said you may only fire these people for such and such reason and after 30 days notice to Congress, just like he's flagrantly flouting the Impoundment Act on these spending freezes. What he wants to do is take away power from Congress, which has delegated some authority to the president on conditions. They say, yes, you can impound certain funds, but only through these procedures, only this amount of time. Yes, you can fire these people, but only through these procedures. And when you say,
We haven't even
who cares about
we haven't even
procedures?
hit the limits of the Impoundment Control Act. It's something like
Oh my God.
45 legislative days.
Oh no, Pisco's gonna kill himself on stage for this stupid argument. Well, how many days does it count if he's being illegal? Can you not do it for 1 day, 20 days, 40 days? Name the day.
Well, I'm talking. So first of all, in order to be in compliance with the Impoundment Act, you need to send a special message to Congress. Is the Impoundment Act being followed? Yes or no?
Well, I don't believe the Impoundment Act is constitutional. Prior to
Whoa, it's not even a real law. Notice how he cited it, and now he's like, well, I don't think it's constitutional because if Trump does anything, he is the law. Trump is the law. Trump can do whatever the fuck he wants, and it's always better than whatever Congress's law says. Yes.
the Impoundment Act, it was expected that the president would trim back the funds if it was appropriated in such a way that Congress gave a cap. And in the U.S. aid legislation, which I actually have it written down right here, it's called Senate Bill 2438. You see multiple different authorizations, which is up to a certain amount or as is necessary to perform the function. So you actually do have the authority under the previous system to trim back those funds.
To perform the functions with the, what is it? The full faith and credit? No, what is it called? That the president will perform, and there's a phrase for this that I should know, but.
Up again, as long as you're accomplishing the necessary mission.
So listen to what he just said. The Impoundment Act is unconstitutional. So what
The Impoundment Control Act, yeah.
So what he's suggesting to you is that it would be constitutional for the president to stop any appropriation passed by Congress.
I didn't say that.
Okay, so do you think that Trump has the power right now to stop any funding he wants for an indefinite period of time?
I didn't say that.
Do you think he has power?
I didn't say that, but you want to answer the question.
I said if Congress appropriates money on a maximum cap, like you are to spend, like the classic example that goes back to Washington is if you were to authorize the president to purchase 10 gunships and you gave them back in the day, it would be like $20,000, and the president can get that
faithfully
for
execute the laws.
$15,000, then he does not have to spend the maximum authorized by Congress.
Does the
this is
president
the theory
have the
that
authority to stop any amount
under
of
the circumstances that I just laid out, where there's a maximum spend amount, if you can accomplish it for less money, then yes.
So wait, I want to be 100% clear. So the Department of Education has been appropriated funds by Congress, agreed?
Okay.
So could Trump, if he wanted to, under your theory of executive power, halt, only put in $1 for the Department of Education and halt the rest of it for an indefinite period of time, yes or no?
First of all, it's what did I just say? If the legislation offers a maximum cap for appropriations, then the president can go under it.
It's appropriating a specific amount of money. I'm asking you that question.
If it's appropriating a specific amount of money, then no, the president wouldn't be able to just get rid of it altogether.
So should he have to? So then, if that's the case, what can Congress effectively do about it if he decides I'm going to pause it?
Well, he can pause funds like temporarily under the Impoundment Control
No, you said that that's
Act.
unconstitutional.
Yeah, I think it's unconstitutional. Yeah.
So what should the Congress constitutionally do, because they can't pass a
Well,
law?
they already had the legislation, so like that can be enforced, but we haven't even gotten to that 45-day period.
Enforced by whom?
We haven't even gotten to that 45-day period. Then you would go to the courts.
So the 45-day period is constitutional, but not the
I
next
didn't
provision?
say, oh my God. The current law, regardless of what I think is constitutional or not, since you need it in clear English, says 45 legislative days.
Yep.
So we haven't even gotten to that point to even have this discussion about the Impoundment Control Act. After the 45 legislative days under the Impoundment Control Act, they can take the president to court.
So that is only for rescissions, not deferrals. And to be 100% clear, they have to have sent a special message to Congress, which you agree he did not do. Fair?
I don't know if he did.
He did. He sent an OMB.
You just asserted that.
Well, I want to represent. He, of course, did not fucking send a special message because Trump believes, as actual justice warrior Sean does, that
That is my full government name.
So you can check it. People at home can check it. They can that they believe the Impoundment Act is unconstitutional. No one can argue that they're trying to follow the Impoundment Act. They're deliberately, just like they're deliberately flouting the requirements of firing and notice on firing. They're deliberately flouting the congressional limitations on the Impoundment Act. And so it's such a pretense to sit here and think that they're complying when they're openly defying Congress. And what they're trying to do is what they're hoping for is that court orders will go their way. A lot of them won't. And what will happen is, just like they're gearing up for, they're going to defy court orders. And you're going to sit here
and
and
because of this, Joe Biden's taxation policy is better. Like again, notice how he can't actually argue the premise of the debate. And speaking of defiance of court orders, the Supreme Court of the United States of America struck down
Joe Biden trying to dismiss $50 billion of student loans. And then Joe Biden said, I'm going to try to do it anyway, even though he looked for a totally different pathway to do it. And he acknowledged that the Supreme Court struck down the one pathway that he did it. Sean's going to bring up this. They love this one example. They always have their one go-to.
down affirmative action under the Biden administration.
Fuck! Just kidding. He brought up affirmative action again. They have two they like to go to. That was the second one. My bad.
Administration's Department of Education, they were advising universities as a way to do an end around the Supreme Court decision by telling them to stop looking for racial diversity and start doing these adversity scores. This is well documented from the Department of Education. Biden's like, he even had a little bit of a speech where he talked about how, the Supreme Court may have struck this down, but diversity is still our strength. Similar thing happened after student loan forgiveness was struck down.
Okay, we got it. Fuck you. I got there. We got there.
The courts. The Biden administration turned around and started expanding other relief programs. He even gave a speech where he said, the Supreme Court shut this down because the Republicans and the attorney generals ended up suing. And then what did he do? He expanded eligibility through the executive branch for a bunch of different programs to try to get some of this done and buck the Supreme Court.
Did you read Biden versus Nebraska or the affirmative action case?
Did I read the case? No.
Of course not. Because obviously those adversity type, you're laughing. It's completely true. He didn't read it. He doesn't know what's in it. He doesn't know if it's defined the core. And because the truth is, the court said you're allowed to consider adversity. You're allowed to do that in a kind of generic or an essay.
They're using this in the Department of Education as a code for racial diversity.
The court said that was acceptable. So it's so fucking laughable.
It's not acceptable when you're using it to subvert in order to get the same racial.
You read the case and you're telling them what's acceptable under the case. What a fucking joker you are. And then obviously the Simone case completely. I mean, what does that have to do with what Biden did? What Biden did was initially tried to have a policy that affected $10,000 for universally if you don't have a Pell Grant, $20,000 universally if you do have a Pell Grant, and that was striking at like millions and millions and millions of people, very 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 broad, and that was struck down. He never tried that fucking shit again. He expanded existence, so he did different things. He expanded
but you just went after Trump, and in your opening statement, you went after Trump for supposedly defying a Rhode Island judge. But the Trump administration's justification for that was that the OMB memo is what was rescinded as per the court's request. However, they had a different executive order that they were using to freeze specific funds, and they didn't believe that the court's decision on that one case, which was on that one order, expanded to all orders.
Yeah, so I want to
explain. So that was a legal theory. Like every legal theory from the Biden administration is valid and good and honest and genuine. Every single one from the Trump administration is corrupt. And again, we're also not talking about economic policies or anything of the sort because you can't defend it. You talk about foreign policy. We're going after Trump over the Gaza thing. I think it makes sense.
Because Pisco needs to be able to say 4 different things at the same time. Like, Jesus, we can get there, bro. My God.
I think it makes sense to actually posture strength on behalf of our allies rather than the wishy-washy nonsense where Biden's like,
How could you ever say that Trump postures strength? Oh my God. Are they going to get to the foreign policy part? Does Pisco do foreign policies much? Oh my God, bro. The U.S. is a fucking loser under Trump. We surrendered to the Taliban. It looks like the United States is going to surrender Ukraine to Russia without even inviting Ukraine to the talks. What concessions, with all of our bravado and all of our machoism and all of our strength, what concessions is the U.S. going to pull out of Russia here? Any guesses?
So
Like,
you
we're
agree
going to
with
support the Israelis, but also we're going to like not give them the 2,000-pound bombs. We're going to freeze that temporarily. Like, it's nonsense.
So
Either
you
you're
agree
in
with
with
him you agree with him coming out and saying America's going to own
I think
Gaza?
posturing that the Hamas
Yes or no,
terrorists.
you agree with him coming out and saying that? Fair?
Let me answer the question.
Okay.
I think that posturing that the Hamas terrorists might actually lose something they care about, like territory, as a consequence for their actions, rather than just get a ceasefire, a reset, and repeat, which is the standard in the Middle East, is a better strategy on a foreign policy stage than what was the
Do you
status
agree
quo.
with Trump coming
They should have taken territory from Gaza. Jesus.
out and saying America's going to own Gaza? Do you agree with him coming out and saying yes or no?
I wish he wouldn't have said America was going to own Gaza because I don't want it, so I disagree with
Why would
that.
you disagree with it? It's just a smart posture.
I think. Do you not like hear the words that I say? You just imagine them.
You just said it was a smart. Wait, you just said it was a smart thing to
I
do.
said it's a
You disagree
smart
with it.
posture to tell Hamas, this organization that is the governing authority in Gaza, that they're going to lose something for their actions, and in this case, it's territory. What I disagree with is I don't want Gaza. I don't want the Americans to say that they want Gaza. I would say I would have backed Israel. I would have backed Israel, like saying that they would take it rather than us, because I don't want that problem. Now, do I even
Oh, apparently Rubio said that they would be there. Ukraine, Russia.
want the Israelis to take Gaza? In truth, probably not. It's not something that I care about. That's a foreign overseas conflict. But you posture on behalf of your allies. You go ride or die with them.
You agree it was bad for
It was bad. Oh my God. It was bad for America to claim that they were going to own it because I don't want it. It's good to tell Hamas that they're going to lose something they care about because they don't care about their civilians, but they do care about their territory.
Yeah, but
because when you
say
lose
that.
a war, you should feel like you're going to lose something, and that actually increases or decreases the chances that you will attack again. Because what happens in the Middle East? Hamas attacks or whatever organization attacks. The Israelis strike back. International pressure goes on the Israelis. They initiate a ceasefire, and that never leads to peace. We just get rinse and repeat. And the reason why is that international pressure ends up lowering the consequences for initiating force against Israel, and that's why the cycle keeps going.
So why would you disagree with Trump's posture then? If Trump is saying that just as a posture and it's not really going to be implemented and you don't want them to be taken over anyway, why would you disagree with it and say it's bad?
For the reasons that I said, I want to say 2 times or 3 times. I don't know.
Well, you basically said you need to tell them that they're going to lose something.
Yes, lose territory, but I don't want America to have Gaza.
Lose it all and give it to America. That distinction
Yeah,
matters to you.
yeah, it does matter to
Okay,
me.
okay.
Yes,
Then it was
yes,
a
it
stupid
does
policy.
matter to
I
me.
agree with the stupid policy. Also, I totally disagree with Trump being Benjamin Netanyahu's dog, which he goes around, pulls a seat out for him, and does anything that Bibi asked him to do. You know he's funded by a bunch of pro-Israeli donors, and let's just be clear about that. He's going to do what Israel commands him to do. Fair?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, so more so than Biden. Fair?
No, not
You
necessarily.
think that Biden is more beholden to Israel than
Well,
Trump is?
Biden actually received more money from AIPAC than any politician in American history.
not what I asked.
I like that. What a pivot. Oh my God.
So first of all, AIPAC is not all pro-Israeli funders. Fair?
AIPAC is not all pro-Israeli
Okay,
funders.
so-
Are there anti-Israel people in the American Israeli Political Action Committee?
I didn't say no. But you said that Biden got more AIPAC dollars, and I'm telling you.
Oh, okay, I got you. Like, all right,
no,
yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. It's
Trump
like
had,
all dogs
Trump had
should be
$8 billion
justice.
there. I mean, and Biden didn't get that money. And so the question is, and I want to be clear, because I don't think that you agree with Netanyahu's the amount of influence he has in America, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Right. So why do you think that Biden is more beholden to Israel than Trump?
I don't think that I think both parties in the American politics are influenced strongly by Israel.
It's a relative question. Who's more influenced?
I think Trump is more influenced by the Adelsons because he gets more money from the Adelsons.
So okay, they're both. You can't say who's more.
I think
influenced by
Trump is
Israel.
more pro-Israel than Biden.
Yeah, more influenced by Israel. Fair, and he's going to do what Israel wants.
I don't know necessarily. I don't know what this Gaza thing is.
Oh
Okay.
my
I mean,
God.
they're signaling now.
I think Trump was more likely to signal that he's going to do what Israel wants, which I think is important.
Like, I like how we can mind read every single thing that Biden is going to do based on these vague statements or these unreal statements. But when Trump literally says he's going to do a thing, then we're like totally in the dark and we have no idea what he might do. Like, it's impossible. These are unwinnable arguments. You can't do it. Like, Trump is like a shadow boxer using a fucking jutsu that puts him in 27 places at once. And you're trying to pick out which one is the real one. Meanwhile, Biden's not even in the room and he can point to him and say that's Biden. Like, it's an impossible debate. Like, Trump can't be held to any standard, to any accountability, to any position whatsoever. It's a joke.
Let's look at the actual things that they did. They had the Abraham Accords. They recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
What a great mention of foreign policy victories for Trump. I mean,
You say-
negotiating peace with bilateral peace agreements with Arab neighbors. What was it, like the first time in 25 years that they got a peace agreement?
Yeah, you say that, but just to be clear, 100%. The question was who's more influenced by Israel, and Trump gave Israel tangible wins and victories. Fair.
Yeah,
And
you help your
say,
allies.
Some say, by the way, had a causative effect on that horrible attack. Obviously, Hamas bears complete and total responsibility for the atrocious acts that they did and the terrorism. And I fucking hate Hamas, and so I'm not a supporter of Hamas at all. But people point to that as a causative effect. The Abraham
Yeah,
Accords.
dumb people point to that as a causative
You don't think
effect.
that
No, I don't. I think that if Hamas gets the opportunity to attack Israel, they do it. Like, I don't think negotiating these bilateral peace agreements made Hamas more violent. They were always a violent terrorist organization.
You don't think that it was isolating the Iranian proxies, that it was isolated that Hamas in Iran in conjunction with Hezbollah wanted to take a one-up?
So you think like Hamas was like sitting around and they're like, gosh, like us and the Israelis are good. Holy crap, they're getting these bilateral agreements. Now we really hate them.
Like, it's funny because that's literally what happened when it came to recognizing the moving of the embassy to Jerusalem. It was literally like, holy shit, this isn't cool. Israel's getting a lot of shit from the United States. Holy shit, this isn't cool. We're being abandoned. Yes, this is exactly what happened. Yes.
They always hated the Israelis. They were always attacking them. There's this dumb theory of Israeli or Middle Eastern foreign policy that all peace has to start with the Palestinians. That's not true. The Trump administration ingeniously in its first term realized that it made way more sense to cut off the Palestinians from some of these people, some of these countries, and negotiate these bilateral agreements. And then maybe you'll get to a point where the Palestinians aren't being funded by all these different various groups. And I know a lot of the Shia groups like Hezbollah and all that through Iran are funding them now. But I think this is a much
Saudi Arabia, was Morocco, were these people funding Hamas? Like,
better strategy to
you
negotiate
support
these
cutting
deals.
off aid for Palestine.
What did I say that?
I'm asking.
Well, I don't want the American taxpayer to fund them.
So you do support cutting off aid for Palestine?
I might do some humanitarian aid. Whole territory got blown up.
I mean, they paused all.
As opposed to what aid? Do you think we send military aid to Palestine?
All foreign aid.
Well, I mean, they're in the middle of a war. You said end it like altogether.
But, I mean, so I just want to be clear, in terms of the humanitarian aid, it sounds like you're in favor of it. Do you agree with the pause on all U.S. aid except for Israel and Egypt?
Yeah. We haven't paused Ukraine, actually. We're still supporting them. So I wouldn't cut off an ally in a war.
Okay, so you would be in favor, for example, of Ukraine and America continuing to have a relationship and not taking money away from Ukraine, which is what the Republicans in Congress want to do next.
I mean, they're saying that they want to do that, or Trump campaigned on doing that, but that's not what's been the effect. And speaking of Ukraine, another genius Biden foreign policy blunder was reducing lethal aid to Ukraine as the Russians were amassing troops in Crimea, which he was doing, and I believe it was June of 2021. Trump actually, during his first administration, was increasing lethal aid to points that the previous Obama administration, which is not relevant to this particular conversation because we're doing Trump versus Biden. Again, you should start defending Joe Biden anytime now.
Something right.
And Biden was reducing it because every president, and this is really unfortunate, and by the way, Trump did a little bit of this in his first term, has this idea that you could do a Russian reset. It's one of the dumbest conventional wisdom things in American foreign policy, and I just can't stand it. So yeah, we ended up reducing as a country under Biden administration aid to Ukraine, lethal aid, prior to their invasion, which again signals weakness, and that's what I'm against. Now, ideally, would I want to reduce funding to Israel? 100%. Ukraine? 100% over time. But you don't do that during a war because you have to think about the broader game. You don't want the Chinese to be incentivized to go for Taiwan. So you have to put up a strong front in these regards with our
Like we're putting up a strong front in Ukraine?
known allies, even though it sucks, and I don't like our money going out the door in order to deter us from getting involved in future conflicts.
On the Ukraine stuff, I'm man enough to know when Trump gets something right. When Trump gave lethal aid to the Ukrainians, I think that is correct. He was the first president to give lethal aid in that context, and yeah, he was right for doing that. But if you look at
Can somebody tell me, did Trump give lethal aid, or I thought he just authorized weapons sales? Was there actually donations made, or was it just approving sales of weapons? Somebody link me that. I don't know.
body of these people's work, it's obvious that Biden is way more pro-Ukraine. I'm not aware of the line item that you're referencing right now with like the specific lethal aid given prior to the invasion. What they do is they'll cherry pick like the specific line item that makes them out to be bad. But like what's going on now is obviously, and as Ukraine is signaling, they're cutting Ukraine out and they're signaling that they want to take away funding from Ukraine. And I don't know where if you're worried about China, for example, why are you giving all of these developing countries incentives to go into Beijing's arms by cutting off all their U.S. aid? Why are you signaling that America is an untrustworthy ally by like in the middle? Like, you think talk about efficiency at a drop of a hat, just all the funding gets cut off. We have boats that are supposed to be leaving with food and they're all fucking rotting on their boats. How is that a good idea? How does that not embolden and strengthen China?
Like, I don't understand. Like, can somebody tell me, did this come from somewhere? Or I see Trump admin approves new sale of anti-tank weapons to Ukraine. $39 million sale of defensive lethal weapons to Ukraine. Nearly $400 million in military assistance to Ukraine to be withheld. This was over the first impeachment thing.
You want me? Come and get me!
I should look this up sometime. Sale of model sniper systems coming for value of $41.5 million. Okay, I don't know. If anybody has a link, I'm just curious.
In Russia.
Well, for the Chinese, yes, there is the chance that some of the cuts from U.S. aid could create a vacuum for the Chinese. But like right now, we're in a pause. We're reviewing this stuff, and I do believe a lot of times some of our foreign aid is counterproductive. And again, to be clear, under our democratic system, people voted for this for the Trump administration. As far as subverting China, this is what the whole Panama Canal drama was all about. Because there's a Chinese company, technically it's a Hong Kong-based company, but since China took Hong Kong in Trump's first term, that has positions on both sides of the canal, and we were trying to put pressure on the nation of Panama again to get them out of our backyard. American foreign policy that dates all the way back to the Monroe Doctrine, so that they can't potentially block off the canal. So yeah, we are trying to subvert China. We're also trying to re-examine the programs that we have in places like U.S. aid, and there's not everything that they're doing that I'm going to absolutely love. Like I am going to be against certain things that are strategically valuable for the United States of America. But we don't know if U.S. aid, because none of us, let's be real, we're talking about U.S. aid 3 weeks ago or 2 months ago. Really, we don't know how effective any of these programs are. So it's fine to review them, in my opinion.
Freeze them all completely.
Review them is not cancel and freeze. Like nobody would do. It's so stupid. This is so stupid. I don't even know why I'm. Like, even if we just look at this from a businessman perspective, like you can do department reviews without freezing every single thing the department is doing. It's such a stupid talking point.
Review them while they're being frozen. Why not just review them
Yeah.
and then freeze them as
Yes.
they did? And also, by the way,
Yes.
Congress has to do it. But let's be clear, you're fearful.
Congress would have to.
No,
Yeah,
you should make him answer that question. Why not just review them then? Why do you have to freeze them?
Final nail in the coffin for U.S.
Well,
aid.
for you, I think there's like some discretion for the president to indefinitely suspend all kinds of
I didn't say
spending. Well, I'm just saying that's what it sounds like. That you think that the only limits.
What it sounds like in your head,
Yeah,
because you're making
that's
things
what it sounds
up,
like.
but,
Based on the words you're saying, that the Common Act is unconstitutional. Congress cannot create statutes to limit the president's discretion in that
You don't know
area.
the difference between influence and effective control. So like,
So to be clear,
So
you're fearful of China's encroachment. So am I. That's why I think it's weird to have.
Do you think AJW actually believes what he says? No. I think that he knows enough like bits and pieces of the arguments to know he's like, when he's searching for arguments, he's looking for like, how can I weasel through this? Like that's an intentional thought from him, 100%. You can just tell by the way that he speaks. When somebody only has like a bit or a piece of information, you know that they've come across the correct answer, but they're intentionally not saying it. Like AJW is a deliberate bad faith interlocutor. Yeah.
Someone who has very strong financial ties to Beijing and China.
how come you didn't respond to any of my Middle Eastern points?
Wait,
Why are we off that?
Which ones do you want me to respond to?
What I said.
The ones related to
Guys,
Israel Palestine?
Yeah, I was defending the bilateral peace agreements, and you're saying no, Israel
You
shouldn't
just talked about
negotiate.
China. I was responding to the last thing you said.
Okay.
Is that okay, or do you think that you want me to go back to Palestine?
Which
one
one
do
you're
you want to
glossing over it?
No, I think that Trump's posture on Israel, Palestine. Listen, Biden's posture on Israel, Palestine was not perfect. I didn't like it. I thought it was far too deferential to Bibi Netanyahu. I do think that, but I think that Trump is worse in that respect. And I think that we agree that they have too much influence on American foreign policy. And so on that, I think that there's common agreement on that. So I don't know what the big deal is in the sense of acknowledging that Trump is worse with respect to Israeli influence. But what you're saying is the Abraham Accords, which established mutual recognition, which was de facto agreed. I mean, like they were traded, they had mutual interests, and that this formal signing, which some say incited tension in the region, that it was worth the paper that it was written on. And you think that's a huge victory, fair?
I think that those bilateral agreements are good, and it also demonstrates that this theory in American foreign policy that's gone on for way too long, that the key to peace in the Middle East is to settle the Israeli-Palestinian issue, is just not true.
I mean, what does it look like now? It sounds like it's a big component of establishing peace in the Middle East right now. No. And Saudi Arabia says we're not going to establish diplomatic relations with Israel without a Palestinian state. So it sounds like
I mean, they were already working on this prior to the October 7th attack.
Saudi and Israeli relations.
Yeah.
But the Saudi position now is that
right now during the war.
So you think that they would have? I mean, if that's
I
the
do.
case,
I do think
all right.
yes. If Trump would have won a second term, I do think they would have gotten the Abraham Accord signed.
Oh,
with
that's so
Saudi
you think that the invasion of Israel would not have happened under Trump's watch? What's your evidence for that?
You're talking about the Hamas attack?
Sorry, the Hamas attack into Israel.
No, I think that they would have continued the work on the Abraham Accords and they would have gotten a deal. Like,
With who? With Hamas? With Iran? With Hezbollah?
Saudi Arabia, because that was something that the Trump administration
Why would a deal with Saudi Arabia mean anything at all? Well,
was pushing for. Biden promised a return to normalcy, and when he got into office, all of a sudden Middle Eastern
Would
policy
Hamas have
returned to
attacked?
normal.
Do you think Hamas would have attacked?
I think Saudi Arabia would have recognized, or would have. I'm sorry. I think Saudi Arabia would have become a party to the Abraham Accords if Trump won a second term. This is what I'm
Would
saying.
Hamas have
The
attacked?
October 7th attacks was in 2023, so we would have had 2021, 2022, and most of 2023. That's what I said.
how would that have prevented the October 7th attacks?
Okay, I mean, listen, I think that Joe Biden
whether or
was
not-
not an enemy to Saudi Arabia. I don't know where you're getting
I didn't say he was an enemy to
Joe
Saudi
Biden goes on like shakes.
I said that there's a different theory in Middle Eastern foreign policy under the Trump administration versus the Biden administration, and honestly, all administrations that preceded, that peace must start with the Palestinians. That was not Trump's theory.
The foreign
and
policy
that's why he got the
difference
Abraham Accords.
is Trump is transactional, and Trump is doing things for his personal interest and not for the nation's interest. So and so are the other cronies and oligarchs in his administration. So for example, as I raised before, Elon Musk has direct financial ties with China. Why is he the one who's leading these audits? Why does it make sense for someone so conflicted to be? Isn't that by itself showing that this is a wrong process? The fact that he's heading it, and we have so many deep ties to countries that could be, or also internal actors that could be affected by how the government is funded. Tesla, for example, SpaceX. He's leading the NASA fucking quote unquote audit. How is that okay? Are you okay with that?
I mean, look, there are potential conflicts of interest, and as they arise, I think they should be addressed, and like he should be removed.
Should he be in
from
charge of those audits, yes or no?
But in terms of NASA specifically, like Elon Musk has done more money to save
Should
NASA
Musk be in
than
charge
any
of
other
those
person
investigations?
in charge of the investigations.
The audits, whatever you're calling them.
The audits as pertains to
The
what?
spending freezes, the Doge activities, and the other spending freezes, and the audits that you're saying Doge is doing. Should Elon Musk be in charge of that? Yes or no?
Well, he's a special government employee.
Should he be in charge?
I think he should be in charge of it, and when conflicts of interest come up,
Have
they
they
should be
come up?
addressed.
Have they
well, I mean,
come up?
there was a fake one that came up, and the way that the Trump administration dealt with it, I actually think was quite admirable.
So you're
There was a
talking
report
about
from Rachel
So
Maddow.
look at the Tesla vehicles, right?
Yeah, there was a report from them,
So
and
he
they actually
thinks it's
paused
not
that
a conflict of
contract.
interest. He thinks it's still not a conflict of interest because the acquisition happened under Biden. Is that fair?
No, the purchase order happened.
Happened under Biden.
It hasn't
And
been
therefore,
delivered.
it's cleansed of conflict of interest.
No, I didn't say that.
But think about that for 2 seconds, right? Elon Musk is deciding which programs and which expenditures get exemptions. And so whether or not the expenditure happened under Biden's watch or Trump's, Elon is in charge of whether that funding goes through. He's in charge of getting the exemptions.
Trump
And so-
Yeah, that's a good point. Like if what somebody in chat just said, the appearance of corruption was important enough to dismiss the Eric Adams case, irrespective of the legal merit or any of the evidence. But the appearance of corruption, no matter how much it exists with Elon Musk, doesn't matter. Now we do letter of the law, constitution, even if it is defying Congress. Like what? Why?
Administration specifically
that
pauses
piece-
that deal
that
that
is
was
a
the subject
perfect-
of a fake report that you bit into on
that-
social
no, no,
media,
that
and now
Tesla-
you're backing off of.
That Tesla fleet example is a perfect example of a conflict of interest. It's a pristine example.
And they
of
froze
conflict
that
of interest.
contract.
So, after it was brought to their attention, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he should not be leading this. And the fact that he won't say it, that he should not be leading this, is crazy. This guy, there's so many connections between. He's a fucking military contractor, and he's going to be in charge of all of the government, or at least having significant influence, not in charge. Significant
they make
influence
recommendations.
on, that are having the force of law.
They make recommendations to the president again.
That he's accepting wholesale.
I don't know.
And you pretend that it doesn't matter. You pretend that it doesn't matter. That,
Look,
that
if
the head
when
of
the
this
specific
agency is
conflicts are
terribly
identified,
conflicted.
they should be addressed. Like, yeah, he's a special government employee. Like a bunch of different special government
Imagine
employees.
George Soros. Imagine if any.
George Soros does have huge influence. I mean, you brought up Alvin Bragg. He paid for.
Oh my God, George Soros, and then he's gonna bring up Alvin Bragg, and you're like, come on. I wish, bro. Fuck George Soros, man. I wish Soros was half the corrupt piece of shit that fucking Elon Musk is. Unbelievable. Like the gall to even breathe that name compared to Elon Musk. Holy shit.
for his political campaign.
Imagine if Rachel Maddow, because Elon is also a media figure. Imagine if Rachel Maddow was in charge of the audits that were happening under a government watchdog. How these people would fucking cry pathetically every week.
Oh, they would put an anchor actor
So
in
you don't
charge
think-
of it.
You
Like,
don't
we
think
know.
that it's a problem to have someone like Elon Musk either for the optics of impartiality before you said
There you go.
we had to hold,
Yep.
stop the prosecution
Yes.
for the optics.
I didn't say we had to. I said I wouldn't have, but I understand.
Oh my God, he's such a weasel. I got like 2 more minutes, so I can't listen to this guy. He's actually such a fucking loser. I can't listen to this. I don't know. This is why I will never debate this guy again. It's actually such a.
And the
It's
optics
so
and, like, this
gross.
idea of what you call trying to appear not political.
So you're saying you wouldn't have, so you said, for example, you wouldn't
It's
have.
the clown mirror analogy, or the clown mirror debate perpetrary tactic, where you can never ever restate the person's position. And you can't with Sean. More than any other person I've ever seen online, you can never restate Sean's position or ask him like, oh, so you wouldn't approve this? And he'd be like, I didn't actually say approve. I just meant that I wouldn't disapprove. Okay, wait. So then you would be okay with this? I never said I'd be okay with that. I just said I'd be okay with maybe something like that in a different universe. You can never restate a position. You can never restate a single thing he said. You can never get him to engage, honestly, with a hypothetical. You can never figure out like what he means because it's always like slippery. It's so, ugh.
I've stopped the case against Alvin Bragg.
No,
would you
Eric
have
Adams.
Would you have Mayor Adams? Would you have a point that Elon must have had this Doge?
Yeah, the whole department is his idea, or the agency, or whatever.
Given the appearance of a conflict of interest that was sufficient in your mind to understand at least what's going on with Mayor Adams, why would he be the person you appoint to head this?
Because the agency was his brainchild, and you need somebody to run it.
So
See, like, look at the matter of fact, like, why the appearance of impropriety matters with why couldn't you just say, well, it's the job of the U.S. prosecuting attorneys to decide who to prosecute? Well, the appearance of impropriety is enough there to literally pump the brakes on that entire thing. Okay, but then for Doge, well, he is what he is. Like, it's.
having
And he's good at downsizing. Look at what he's done with his company. He's good at downsizing. That's the goal.
This is where we're at, folks. I mean, there is no conflict of interest to corrupt, no obvious blatant hypocrisy happening in front of you that they will not defend and go to the mat defending. I mean, think about it. What did Elon do that would make you say, oh, he shouldn't be?
And it's like so gross. Like, Sean can't own a single thing in good faith. Like, maybe this is probably not okay. Maybe this is probably not like the only thing he owned is like, I don't want America to do this thing, but I don't even think Trump was serious about it. He's just like baiting on that, like the owning Gaza shit.
Of Doge, like what could he do?
There's plenty of things that he could do.
Name one.
I can't think of anything right now. This second.
Like it's so gross. Can you think of one thing that he could do that you'd be like, I don't know, I can't think of anything.
Corrupt, no obvious blatant hypocrisy happening.
You know why he won't do it too? Is because fucking Elon might actually do it, and then Sean would look like a massive hypocrite. So he can't even name a thing because he might accidentally do that thing, and now he looks like a really huge hypocrite.
That they will not defend and go to the mat defending. I mean, what did Elon do that would make you say, oh, he shouldn't be head of Doge? Like what could he do?
There's plenty of things that he could do.
Name one.
I can't think of anything right now. This second. I mean, he could grant himself like $100 billion contract out of nothing. I mean, there's plenty of
What
things.
if he hadn't granted that exemption to himself, or sorry, that hadn't frozen that $400 million of the Tesla fleet vehicles? If he hadn't done that, would you say, okay?
Well, he didn't freeze it. It was frozen by the Trump administration in response to the news reports.
So, by the way, I'm
Oh my god.
that representation. I don't know that it's frozen. I thought that was under the State Department, and I think a lot of the State Department stuff is not covered by some of the exemptions they're applying. So I'm taking you on good faith that that stuff has been frozen. So I don't know that to be true.
Good faith for once.
Yeah,
On $400 million.
I'm just saying, I don't know that to be true. But suppose that he hadn't frozen it. Would you say, okay?
I mean, that's a contract that was put out there for anybody to bid on. Elon Musk's Tesla was the only company that bid on it. But again, like I would have frozen that on a different account, which is we don't need all of our State Department armored vehicles to be electric. I mean, this was the big red flag for when Rachel Maddow was reporting the story that it was total nonsense. Because what administration is like, the armored security vehicles, those should be green and carbon neutral. These are obviously Democratic policies. So they should be frozen by Trump's executive order that you're against as it relates to EPA spending. Lee Zeldin should crack down on that nonsense.
No, if there's evidence of fraud.
How did we get through this from a climate change perspective? Jesus Christ.
You present it to Congress. It is not for the president to decide with his buddies, his rich, corrupt oligarch buddies, that he gets to say what's fraud, what's waste. It is Congress's discretion. You don't want to talk about core executive power, core legislative authority to appropriate Congress. That is their key responsibility. The most important power that Congress has is controlling the purse strings, and you have no problem them fucking with it on whims or
Congress
or
still
with
controls
needs.
the purse strings.
Oh, please.
And we're talking about like marginal parts of the budget, like 1% of the budget. It's like nothing right now.
The fact that
but
you
yes,
just-
like Congress will put out a budget of their priorities,
You know what you
and
did?
this audit will hopefully at least incentivize them when they put out that budget to cut off funding where it needs to be cut.
The fact that you acknowledge that these quote unquote cuts, that they are cuts, is one that's damning because you're not supposed to cut unless you go through the procedure they have, which you're not going through. But the fact that you're acknowledging that it's marginal given the size of the overall budget should tell you what's going on here. They don't care about overall reduction in the deficit and in the debt. What they care about is having this kind of signaling war, this meme war, talking to you guys, talking your ears off, and trying to signal wins because they have policies they don't like. They don't like it when it goes to trans daycares or whatever.
That stuff should be cut off for
underwater
sure.
basket weaving, that kind of shit. And so they know that you guys are like.
I mean, you're going to the mat to
you get
defend all
really-
this
you
stuff
get
right
really
now.
upset about it. You get really upset when anybody goes in the program that you don't agree with and you don't understand that Congress has this discretion. But notice, it is a small amount of the overall budget. And so what is this pretense that what they care about is a massive reduction if they're not even touching military spending? Military spending is
They haven't got to military spending, and you'll be against it when they get to that.
Donald Trump has said on the record that he is going to increase defense spending. Of
Donald
course,
Trump says a lot of things. He said that after the war's done, I want to have a sit down with Xi
it's-
Jinping,
it's-
Vladimir Putin,
it's
and
not
say, let's
just
cut our
words.
military budgets in half. That was a quote from him this week.
It's not just
You're like
words.
his statements. Like,
It's-
yeah, the guy says a lot of things. We all know that.
It's
Again,
not.
can you defend the Biden administration? It's Biden versus Trump policies, and I'm waiting for the.
Did Trump say that he was going to cut the military budget in half, or did Trump say he was going to cut the Pentagon's budget in half? Because at this point, I'm really not convinced that Trump even knows the difference between those two things.
Defense of
Why
Joe
don't you
Biden.
attack on something? Hey, so
What did Trump actually say? Didn't Trump say cut the Pentagon's budget? Defense stocks drop after Trump says Pentagon budget or spending could be halved. Like, I don't even know if Trump knows what the fuck he's saying half the time. Like, I'm going to say there's no reason for us to be spending almost $1 trillion on the military, and I'm going to say we can spend this on other things. Okay, he did say military budget. Whatever that means, I guess.
So we're going down the path. You wanted to talk about foreign policy. We went there. I want to finish this last word.
Yeah, and you
on
said
budget.
like you didn't support a bunch of Biden's foreign policy. So where's the
I support him on Ukraine and being super pro-Ukraine way more than Trump is. I support Biden not fucking isolating our allies and attacking them and making causing friction between them where they've already had effects, potentially inflation effect. We don't know yet on Canadian Mexico trade. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with him going out and using and basically attacking Europe and prepping for huge massive tariffs with Europe. So in that respect,
There's nothing that says you love your ally more than you want them to join your country as the next province. That's
fucking hilarious. Epic meme.
Trump's all for Canada. That's beautiful.
There's nothing that says that you love your country
Epic
more
meme.
than agreeing to be annexed. By
This is
me.
like this is the thing that I'm saying where you have like liberals doom scroll, but to conservatives it's just like fucking epic and based and hilarious.
That sounds like Putin. I mean, that's where we are right now. We're fucking turning our country into Vladimir Putin. He doesn't talk about.
I know you have trouble listening, but I was saying there's nothing that says you love your ally more, as in from the U.S. perspective, than saying you want them in the country.
Invading
And then
them
he
over.
flips it to the Canadian perspective, and it's like, oh, they're going to say that they want to be
How about
annexed.
respecting?
When did I
How
say
about respecting
that?
the sovereignty of Canada?
You can still say you want Canada. We're not invading
No,
it.
but
Oh, it's just the thing he's saying. Like these are the endless word games.
your allies is like if they say, "Hey, we're Canada. We don't ever want to be America," or "Hey, we're part of Denmark. We don't want to be part of America."
Are you
respect
married?
that. Stop.
I'm just asking you.
Wait, that's not relevant, bro.
I'm asking you. Are you seeing someone?
I'm seeing someone. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, sometimes you get a little rejection, and you got to ask them out again. You got to be more. You got to put in a little effort.
Bro, like what is this? How many times?
It's just a meme. Everything's just like a fucking meme.
No, before he gets the picture, and will you continue to defend it when he's like calling for an invasion of Panama? Eventually, yes, he will.
No, he's already gotten the Chinese companies to what you go. They're going to end that contract with those
So you don't
companies.
think
I don't even think anything changed in Panama. I think Panama didn't he say they got some concession, and Panama literally put out a statement saying literally nothing has changed. This is exactly what we were doing before.
Aspirations of the Panama Canal.
I mean, we want to have not Chinese influence on the Panama Canal, but I don't think we're going to take it over again.
Okay, I mean, so just to be clear on where I stand on foreign policy, I think a lot of these are fucking huge blunders. I think that it's absolutely.
You don't want Greenland?
I only want.
Epic.
I want Greenland if Greenland wants to be.
No,
part of
what do
America.
you want?
I want to respect Greenland's sovereignty and Denmark's sovereignty. I want to respect NATO as well.
But
I
do you
think-
want Greenland though?
Listen.
Would you be against the Louisiana Purchase? How
I'm gonna
anti-American
be
are you
base
going to
for
go
a
right
second.
now?
I'm gonna be base for a second and say, I'm a big manifesting person. I love America, but I don't want to be an empire. I don't want to spread it where it doesn't want to be spread. And I think one of the biggest mistakes of the neocons who ran the Republican Party for a long time was, and who, by the way, are still in a position of high authority under this administration, Marco Rubio, Ellie Stefanik, to say nothing of like Pete Hegseth, who was a major supporter of the Iraq War. It was this notion that we can just spread democracy using pressure all the time. And so I am fine with, in theory, if we're doing this in like political theory, Canada becoming an American state, fucking go for it. I want Puerto Rico to become an American state. I love spreading our constitution because I believe in that constitution, but not with the sword and not through these kind of weird tricks or pressure. I think it's not okay, not acceptable right now. And I think that Biden did a good job stewarding our allies in support of major things that occurred. For example, the Ukraine war. He kept NATO together. He got a lot of European countries, for example, Germany.
He kept
others.
Afghanistan's government alive. Oh wait, no.
You support the withdrawal of Afghanistan, don't you?
I mean, there's ways to leave and then there's ways to leave.
You support the withdrawal.
Oh, Sean just realized he fucked up a little bit because that was Trump negotiated, but he's just going to blame everything on Biden somehow because it was kicked down the can to Biden's term.
Yes or no?
Did I want U.S. troops to eventually leave
Do you
Afghanistan?
sup-
Sure.
So-
So we also had contractors in there that would have stayed probably under Trump's.
What would you have done
policy.
differently? For example, I'll give you an example.
Trump would have left contractors in Afghanistan after a full U.S. military retreat? Really?
Trump said he would have kept Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan.
Trump said he would have killed the guy. He showed him a picture of his house. You never heard that story? If he killed one more person.
So Trump said he would have kept Bagram
Epic.
Air Base. Do you agree with Trump? Yes or no?
I don't know.
You don't know. So what would you have done differently?
He can't even answer this because it's so hypocritical.
I would have, if they were, I wouldn't have left in the fighting season. I think timing it so that you withdraw near the 20th anniversary of 9/11. You say who timed it? Again, they had a procedure under the Trump administration, but there were conditions for that withdrawal that were not met by the Afghanis.
Yeah, none of them were met under Trump's term either. When Trump released like 5,000 Taliban fighters, like they didn't meet any of those conditions either. But
met by the Taliban.
Who timed it?
Biden did. He was the commander in chief.
Wait.
oh my God, bro. We'll read our chapter.
There was an agreement with the Taliban, a unilateral agreement, by the way, just like he's doing right now with Russia. Right now he's in negotiations with Russia without Ukraine there or Europe there. So he had an agreement edging out the Afghan government out just with the Taliban. And they said they had an agreement, we're not going to attack American troops and we'll withdraw on this timetable. And
they
that's
attacked
what
American
occurred.
troops, so you shouldn't have withdrawn on that timetable.
The Taliban attacked American troops when?
They blew them up at the base. 13, I believe, Marines died.
Whoa. Sean thinks that was the Taliban? Oh no, does Pisco know this?
American troops, so you shouldn't have withdrawn on that timetable.
The Taliban attacked American troops when?
They blew them up at the base. 13, I believe, Marines died.
Does Pisco know this?
He thinks it was the Taliban.
Oh, thank God. Damn, that's a kind of a big fuck up. I mean, unless you don't give a fuck about this deal, but
Was it?
Or was Al Qaeda?
almost. One more.
I don't even know. It's ISIS.
Dramatic pause. Oh, ISIS, whatever.
Taliban. Wait, but that matters, right?
But
Doesn't
it's
matter.
all the same shit to him. It's all like Muslim terrorists, right? ISIS, Al Qaeda, Taliban, same shit, right?
That distinctly matter that they didn't break that agreement and it was ISIS. You totally fucked that up because you have no clue. And you think that you guys all saw it. I mean, the Taliban did not. They kept to their word. They didn't attack American troops.
They overthrew the
Taliban-
Afghan government.
What's that?
They overthrew the Afghani government, though.
Yeah, that wasn't part of the fucking agreement. That was the problem.
Who? The Taliban?
Taliban.
Yeah. You blame Biden for that?
I mean, we could have supported them with air power or something.
and violated the whole agreement and started fighting another war in Afghanistan again. Kill me.
No loss. Do you want us to be more engaged and spend more money in foreign, and giving them more weapons and more arms, or do you not?
I don't want to create vacuums. I never put myself up here as an isolationist.
You're in this little Goldilocks position where no matter what
not.
you do, you're criticizing. If they withdraw, it wasn't enough. They should have been more support. But you also don't want to get too involved in Gaza. But you do want to support Israel, and you want to support your allies, and so you want to support.
I said I don't want America to own Gaza. Like I clarified that so many times, and you're still misstating it.
You agree with funding Israel, fair?
Yeah, you don't abandon your ally during a war.
Okay, but you also agree that we should have funded and spent more money and spent more resources in preventing the Afghan government's demise.
I mean, if we needed to stay to prevent them from collapsing, so we don't show weakness on the world stage, then yes.
So I mean, I don't know what to say. If you're in favor of establishing the Afghan
Then
government's,
maybe
legitimacy-
the Doha Agreement should have included Afghanistan and the government. Maybe.
in making sure that it is stable and it survives, then the answer is don't leave.
I mean, we had contractors there under the Trump administration. You could get troops out and use contractors as a substitute in order to stabilize. Like, we left them with equipment that they couldn't use.
You can't just use private military contractors as a substitute for the United States military. What?
And some of these people, again, I know everybody's like, oh, we don't care about conflicts around the world. Some of these people helped our troops while we were over there.
Yeah, and guess what? Trump just said as part of his immigration policy. I was wondering why we're not bringing up immigration.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about immigration.
Yeah. So, as part of his immigration policy, he's not going to let these the people who helped us in Afghanistan through, like thousands of them.
Yeah, we should send them to do what we did similar, I believe it was in Vietnam, and send them to a third-party country while we vet them before they get here. I don't know why this isn't a normal
so
American
you were
policy.
talking about,
but in terms of immigration, greatest immigration policy maybe in the last couple of decades, remain in Mexico.
The ultimate NIMBY. So he wants us to assist Afghanistan, but not if it's going to cost us too much, and not if it's going to be in our. We don't want to take these fucking losers who helped us in the war. I mean, we wouldn't want to impose costs
But we have to
ourselves.
vet who they are. Like, again,
Yeah, so why do we have a unilateral? Why do we just
we would send them to a third-party country. And like you said, that like it's a bad thing. I want to help our allies, but I don't want it to cost them.
We haven't vetted them when the military is literally using them on the ground as like fixers or for intelligence gathering purposes or for assisting in other do you think that the U.S. military just goes up to like fucking randos of the street? What does he mean?
A lot. Yeah.
No,
that's exactly what I want to do. Like, not spend a ton of money that's unnecessary. Number one. Number two, again, immigration policy.
Yeah, go for it.
Remain in Mexico. Best immigration policy I've seen in like
how
last.
many migrants?
Yeah, how many migrants did this even help with? Was it like 50,000? It wasn't implemented until I think like 2019.
In the last 10 years, we have a bunch of people that
how many
were
migrants?
defrauding our asylum
He has
system
no idea.
that were going through
He
a bunch of
doesn't
different
know.
countries
He
on the way to
doesn't
the
know.
United States
He
of
doesn't
America
know.
to claim asylum at
Roughly
our
how many
border.
migrants do you think that policy affected? Give or take.
I don't know, 10 million.
Do you have any idea of the scale of remaining in Mexico? If you're saying it's humongous, a great policy.
Well, it was instituted in 2029, and then we had 2019,
There you go, 2019. So it wasn't even for the majority of his term. Okay.
and then we had the COVID emergency, so we were using Title 42 to force people out of the
I'm
country.
asking you
But it
what
should
the
be
scale.
expanded to more.
And then in the last few months of Trump's, it might have been in the last year. The last few months of Trump's term saw more immigration, illegal immigration, than we saw higher than peak any month under Obama. By the way.
for people that were
I'm
claiming
asking whether or
asylum.
not you have an idea of scale about how much it's affected, whether or not it was significant, as you say.
You just said remain in Mexico. Make him own this. He said remain in Mexico. Mexico was one of the best immigration policies of all time in the past several decades. So he must have some idea of the scale, right?
You have any idea of the scale?
I know you're going to say it's like tens of thousands maximum.
Yeah,
is.
it was.
That's good. Yeah, tens of thousands.
But again, it was instituted in 2019 prior to the COVID, where we ended up using Title 42.
But then why did you bring that up as an example? That was your example, Chief.
Expel people. It should have been maintained under the Biden administration, especially when they got rid of Title 42.
It's limited by what Mexico is willing to accept.
And again, remain in Mexico is also a principle. It's the idea that you have to apply for asylum in the countries that you pass along the way, because asylum is I'm in fear of my life, and you should apply for asylum in the next country that you would be safe in, not your first choice for economic reasons.
As in statute, pursuant to bilateral treaties that the government can negotiate, and which they have done so with Canada, and safe third-party country agreements. And so, again, like the nuances matter. In my opinion, statutes matter, procedure matters. But you like the policy because it's at the whim of the president. It's something based, and you don't have to think about its legality or whether or not we can even conceively be sending millions of people to Mexico, remain in Mexico to have their asylum petition heard. It's not the case. Mexico's not going to accept it, and it was never going to be a cure for the policies that
I actually don't mind if Mexico doesn't accept it. What I actually want them to do, and this is one of the goals, is to get them to stop facilitating all this illegal immigration through their country, the United States of America. Like, they know when they see the caravans of people headed for our border and it's being broadcast on the news where they're going, but for some reason our ally just allows them to do that. That's nonsense.
He just told you what this is about. It's a pretext.
It's a deterrent. Yes, I believe in deterrence, yes.
So it's not about.
It's a good policy on its own, and it's a deterrent, yes.
What he wants to do is stop processing asylum claims. Fair?
I want them to claim asylum in the next safe country as the
Do you
program
want
is
to
intended.
process asylum claims as they arrive or not?
No, not as they arrive. I want to change how they're arriving.
Yeah. So that's in this country. We pass these things called laws, and these things called laws. We're a country of laws, not of men. But at every turn, pro-Trump sycophants don't care about the law, that it says that you have to go through asylum procedures, that it says you have to provide hearings to certain people, that you have to have credible fear determinations of people who are,
Does everyone have a right to claim asylum in the United States of America?
You have to be in a
and
port of
pass
entry.
through. How many countries can you pass through to
No.
claim asylum here?
Do you know this answer, or are you asking it?
I'm asking you, how
don't
many
know. Okay,
countries?
so
In your great worldview.
so there's a distinction.
Epic. I can't watch this. I'm good.